Sunday, Yinsburg and Yinzer Crazy Nation. I am, as always, Mike, your co-founder here at YinzerCrazy.com and the Yinzer Crazy podcast. Wishing everybody a safe and prosperous Sunday, and hopefully prosperous in the form of a Steelers victory tonight as we get ready to head into Buffalo to face a 9-3 Bills team that certainly presents a large challenge. There's no questions about that. I wrote an article this past Thursday about the Josh Allen experience, and if you haven't seen the Bills quarterback play firsthand, then you're in for a real treat tonight because this guy is incredibly dynamic. He's a big-time playmaker with a huge arm. I compared his arm to Brett Favre and his mobility to Cam Newton, and both of those things are true. But the downside, I think, for Bills fans, what they would at least admit, is that sometimes he can be very turnover-prone, and we'll put it this way, he can have some mental lapses occasionally. But certainly a challenge for the Steelers as they look to right the ship following their loss against the Washington football team. Of course, their first of the season to drop them to 11-1 this past week. In a game where this team just looked tired, man. They're 11-0. They've been going on 3 games in 12 days. I totally was not shocked to see them fall at the hands of the football team, who has a terrific leader in Alex Smith leading a charge over there and a young defensive line led by Chase Young. They can really play. This is nothing to really, sulk over. And it's cool that in sports you have a chance to go out and right the ship just like the Steelers do today in their game tonight against Buffalo. We'll, of course, have a full recap for you and story on YinzerCrazy.com. But we are in the holiday spirit, so we figured we'd send you a special present, a little gift to unwrap in your stocking. And if you're pulling this out of your stocking, you might initially think it's a troll doll because of the hair, blowout, sticking out right in your face, right? And you're like, what? I don't want that. I didn't ask for a troll doll for Christmas. Well, what if I told you it was in the form of former Steelers kicker Jeff Reed? That's right. We sat down with the man, the myth, the legend, in more ways than one, this past week to talk about pretty much all things his life related. He talks about kickers and their mentality, what they have to go through. I asked him about Matt Wright and the Steelers' decision not to put him out there for a 45-yard field goal this past game, and he had a seriously hot take on that. He also had a hot take on kicking at Heinz Field and said Heinz Field is the toughest place to kick in the NFL and named some kickers that came over to him and said, dude, how the hell do you kick here? Is essentially what he said. But you're going to have to listen to the whole thing to hear his perspective. He talked to us for about 25 minutes, so I'm absolutely thrilled to do this Sunday special podcast release with none other than Jeff Reed. And maybe we get into a little bit of his off-the-field antics as well. This is a good man with a good heart who, of course, has been in the Steelers and Pittsburgh headlines, many of them throughout the past decade for good and notorious reasons. Nonetheless, he's always a ton of fun. Give it a listen. He's our guy, Jeff Reed.
This is Ike T, 2-time Super Bowl champion. And I think I know better than anybody else. Yins are crazy.
Thanks for stopping into the Yinzer Crazy podcast, of course supported by YinzerCrazy.com and sponsored by Performance Auto on 1701 Freeport Road, Arnold, PA. We brought you Max Talbot last, and we're excited to bring you yet another Pittsburgh icon. This is a Pittsburgh Steeler from 2002 to 2010. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ and, of course, a 1-time best hair champion as well. Former kicker Jeff Reed joins the podcast. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on.
We're stoked to have you on. You're the second leading all-time scorer, of course, in Steelers history behind Gary Anderson. But as I mentioned, you're number one when it comes to best hair photo of all time. We saw on your Twitter account you recently posted a pic somebody retweeted of Guy Fieri with your hair from that iconic team photo where you have the blowout. You bringing that hair back anytime soon, man?
Well, I mean, it's shorter. It's still spiked up. I mean, I'm holding on to my hair. I don't have anyone in my family that's bald, so I think I'll keep it. But it's natural, man. It's just dark right now. There's no blonde in it. Usually in the summer, I get the highlights, and then and then I grow it out and do whatever I feel like doing. And but I didn't do it this year. Obviously, it's been a weird kind of year, very different. So the last thing I was going to spend money on is my hair. Just a haircut here and there is cool.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff, you and I were shooting the shit a little bit recently, and Was sorry to hear that you're having some back problems, some back challenges. Can you expound on that a little bit? And are you doing all right managing that?
Yeah, so obviously when you choose to play a sport, you're going to have injuries, or you're going to, as you get older, not that I'm old, but I'm 41, and as you get older, you're gonna feel, it doesn't mean you're gonna feel terrible, but you're gonna feel a little bit. It's gonna be tougher to walk in the mornings. You're gonna have to rest a little more. You're gonna have to do certain exercises that you don't want to do, but you can't do the ones you used to do, kind of thing. So, yeah, actually, I started sports when I was 5. Mainly it was soccer most of my life until my 12th, my senior year in high school. I tried football, but played a little basketball, but not like it's consistent. But it's I was just working out as I do 4 times a week just to stay sane, whether it's 2020 or not. And it's good to stay in some kind of shape. And I was doing an exercise, and it wasn't heavyweight or anything. I yanked on a tire when I was tired last December. Right around now. I think it was December 21st to be exact. And felt it like my back just got really super tight. I had no idea what it was. Just thought, I'll ice it and rest it, and I'll work out next week. And I was at a Christmas party in the food line, of course, because I don't miss too many meals. And I was talking to some lady, I don't even know who she was, and it just completely slipped out. My L5 vertebrae broke, went all the way towards my stomach. And I didn't know that at the time. I just thought I was paralyzed because my left leg wasn't working. And that's a result of years of sports and that actual exercise where I actually pulled it out of place somehow. It's a very random thing to tell somebody you broke your back. Even the ER and urgent care chose to just drug me up, and $3,500 later, and there was no solution. The pain didn't go away. It didn't get better even with the millions of drugs they put in IV. So I had to end up going to a spine and nerve specialist. He obviously took X-rays because the other clowns didn't choose to. And he goes, "Well, no wonder you're in pain. You broke your back." And I said, "Well, that's kind of how it feels, but I'm not going to walk around telling people I broke my back." So long story short, it's still broken. It will never fix itself. However, it is more in place with my spine as it almost should be than obviously before when it slipped all the way towards my stomach. And so I still have some numbness on my left side. I still have my some weaknesses I never used to have. And it's scary. It can definitely happen again unless you get surgery. And as a 41-year-old that wants kids one day and be able to play with his kids, I don't want to get a back surgery at 41. So that's where I'm at. I'm okay. I'm never going to say I'm pain free, but I chose to play sports, so that's just what comes with it. I just didn't ever think I'd actually break my back unless I was in some kind of automobile accident or something. So
sure,
that's where I stand.
Scary stuff for sure. Anybody that's ever had a back injury understands that it literally paralyzes you, man. Even if I should say it feels like it literally paralyzes you, because there's not much you can do when you have a back injury, right? You kind of are stuck to the couch a lot of days. But anybody that knows your career and has followed it, of course, is aware that you are an excellent soccer player. You played over at North Carolina, right, in college?
That's right.
And that's kind of how your story developed and unraveled, and before you know it, you are a 2-time Super Bowl champion kicker. And of course, kicking was on my mind this week in a Steelers context, because Steelers kicker Chris Boswell obviously suffered a bit of a hip injury, which forced the team to call up practice squad kicker Matt Wright. And Jeff, I know it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, man, but it made me think about you. I know you're 41 years old, and you probably aren't walking onto that field anytime soon, but the Steelers elected not to kick a 45-yard field goal because they said Wright likely wouldn't have the distance on Monday against Washington. When you were right, maybe a year ago before this back injury, could you still hit a 45-yarder?
Yeah, and what I'll say about that is I'm not a coach, so I'm a kicker. The guy made a 37-yarder. He made both his extra points. He definitely would have had the distance. I would think it would be, go up by 6 points. I would, and you have a great defense. I don't know why you wouldn't kick it, but that's my personal opinion. Not because I'm a kicker, just because it makes sense. But it's come and gone. They didn't kick it. They didn't get 4th and 1. and they lost the game. But that being said, I mean, I think ultimately I would love to kick a field goal again. I don't know if I'm brave enough right now because the last thing I want to do is have that feeling come back from about 10 months ago. But yeah, 40 before the back issue, man, I can hit 50. But ultimately, I know I've had conversations with Kevin Colbert in the past. That was probably a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And just like I'm trying to stay in shape, but I have to have a job, because I need to do something with my time. But would you ever consider bringing me back if something happened to your guys? And in a nice way, told me no. So, it is what it is. You always want to get one more shot. I did that from when I was done in 2011 with the Seahawks. I trained my tail off for two and a half straight years trying to get another opportunity, and it never happened. So it's just. So then I started realizing, I had a great run. I'm not the richest kicker in NFL history, but money doesn't really make you anything. But if you can have an impact on your community and help people smile, and in the process win some championships, man, that's pretty much why you play the game, if you ask me.
Well, you're helping a lot of people smile right now, brother. There's no question. We're talking with Jeff Reed on the Yinzer Crazy podcast. And Jeff's telling us that when he was right, he could bang a 50-yarder. That's really interesting stuff, brother. And I'm not shocked to hear it by any means, that's for sure. I want to ask you a couple kicker-related questions because it's really cool to pick the brain of somebody who's obviously lived it firsthand. We hear about all these myths and legends of Heinz Field. Tell me about the open end at Heinz Field, first of all, a place where kickers routinely struggle. Is it windier that way? Is it a mental thing? Is that the toughest place you had to kick in the NFL was Heinz Field, or is it somewhere else? Or did it depend on conditions?
It was the toughest place if you look overall. I played just about in every single stadium, not the newer ones now, of course, but the open end is crazy because usually the wind is going, it does change kick to kick, but if you're going that direction, it's usually left to right. And if you hit it as a right footer and it goes a little bit right, you're going to miss bad. Mm. If you find the wind tunnel, it'll fly. And then obviously when the weather gets colder, the ball's not going to travel as far. So, it's not a curse. Here's my thing when I always tell people. When I got to Pittsburgh, I came from Bermuda grass, the Gulf state of North Carolina. And what we thought was freezing cold was 55. And we had our footing. If it was raining, it wasn't a solid downpour for a game. I wasn't used to any of the conditions in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So you can talk about wind, you can talk about the stadium, you can talk about all that. But ultimately, when I got there in 2002, it was the second year Heinz Field was open. They were experimenting with grass, then the grass and turf, and then the grass. So as you can see, we played in the Mud Bowl, and the grass was painted green a lot of games, and they were experimenting because they're trying to find a way where they can keep a field in great shape by playing 10 games plus playoffs for Pittsburgh Steelers. Pitt playing on Saturdays, sometimes right before the Steelers play on Sunday, and then you got the high school games. So it was my issue was not necessarily it was windy, it was tough. My issue was more footing than anything else. But because it's windy in Miami, and damn, it's usually 80 degrees year round, right? At least. So in Cleveland was really tough. Lake Erie was awful. New England was tough. It was turf. However, they had one corner of the stadium wide open, and you couldn't read that wind. It was just once the ball went there, you could kind of tell, but it was too late. You already kicked it. So there's a lot of places where wind and weather conditions come into play. But if you have your footing, you always have a better chance as a running back, as a kicker, as a quarterback, as a receiver coming out of those cuts. Because offensive linemen had it really tough, and no one talked about that.
Right.
All we used to do is, for the most part, run the ball. So, they're getting, if the field's really tough to stand up on, they're getting pushed back on ice skates, and the running back's having to make a quick decision. On top of that, trying to see if he can cut back to find the hole. So, I think, it is a tough place to kick, absolutely. But as it progressed, the field got in better and better shape. I never made any excuses, even though the media said I did a couple times I just played. And, all I could do is my absolute best. But every single kicker I played against, whether it was Vinatieri or a guy you hadn't heard of, when they played in Heinz Field when I was playing, they were like, how in the hell do you kick here? and I mean, that's in pregame warm-up, so.
Right.
I mean, there were a couple guys that told me, they told their coaches, unless it's an extra point, they're not kicking.
Yeah, and that's interesting, man. And so much of it, I'm sure, like you said, has to do with the fact that not only it's a northern city with cold fronts regularly and some windy conditions, but you're right. WPIAL is tearing it up, the high school kids, and Pitt's playing there on Saturday. And I think it's probably the only stadium that has all of those factors combined.
Yeah, well, I mean, which is great for the, for Pitt. I'm sure they want their own stadium at some point, but it's still cool. And then on the flip side of that, these high school kids want to play where the Steelers play.
Right.
I mean, I think that's great. But all things considered, if you're going to do that, you need conditions that are going to hold up.
Right. Well, listen.
And that's the biggest thing.
Well, we at the Yinzer Crazy Show know that you always were a guy who stepped up in the big moments. You were a clutch kicker. I mean, we can talk about the kick against the Jets that you hit to send the Steelers to the Super Bowl, or, of course, the Super Bowl in 2008 when you went 2 for 2 on field goals against the Cardinals in the 27-23 victory. Another kicker-related question that just came to my mind when I said I'm talking to Jeff Reed this week had to do with icing the kicker. Does that work, Jeff? What goes on in your mind when somebody calls a timeout before you step up for a big kick? Or is it just, you get a chuckle and some extra time to talk about dinner plans with the rest of your team?
Well, the thing I always did is it didn't really, I mean, the thing that bothered you more than anything was when the coach or whoever called it so late that you've already kicked the balls halfway through the uprights and then you have to kick again.
Right.
Now, I don't think they should be allowed to do that. If you're going to call a timeout, call a timeout. Now, the icing part, not really, because I'm the kind of guy, and I watch these college kickers all the time, and some NFL guys, but the other coach calls a timeout. They go and talk to their coach, and they're giving people high fives. And see, I walked to the middle of the field, swung my leg a little bit, stretched out a little bit, and then I came back and found the perfect spot where I want the ball and told the holder. And so it actually was beneficial to me. I just cleared my head and told myself this is an opportunity to be a hero. So you're either the hero or the GOAT. There is no in between with a kicker. So, I mean, you have to find a way to be that guy everybody wants to be like and look up to, other than the guy that, man, that guy sucks.
Yeah.
He missed that important field goal. So it benefited me. But ultimately, if I had any advice for a kicker, whether they're young or old, I mean, there's no reason to go besides your holder, there's no reason to go and talk to anyone in that 30 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever timeout is, because it's all on you. It's on 11 people, but the other 10, if they don't do their job, you can't do yours anyway. So basically, if you see that ball being put down, the ball's in your court. So there's no reason to talk to anybody else.
Right.
I mean, you know your team's got your back, or you wouldn't be on that team. So, but I took pride in. And I coached some kids privately, and I take pride in big kicks. I said, you can miss a kick during the game, and man, it stinks. But if you hit a game winner, as an individual kicker, you're going to think about the one you missed too. But ultimately, everyone forgets about it if you hit the game winner.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way it goes. Because other guys have been fighting and getting hurt, bleeding and sweating on that field, and you come through for them, man. They're like, man, that's our man. So. I took pride in that. I was never one of those outcast kickers like the dorky guy in the corner by himself. And I was in the middle of linebackers and tight ends during workouts. And I was just I got voted a captain, yes, because I was pretty successful, but because I was part of the team instead of that guy that was, when I was done kicking, just went inside or went home.
No question about it. Some great perspective. We're talking with a guy who was a hero way more times than he was a GOAT for the Steelers from 2002 to 2010, kicker Jeff Reed. And Jeff, man, we just talked to Max Talbot, who was obviously a Penguin Stanley Cup hero, speaking of heroes. And I got to ask you it. Max was a dude that could hang, right? He told us a story about his brother almost getting arrested on the South Side, a guy that would have some drinks at the bar. Did you ever have a beer with Max Talbot?
Yeah, Max was one of my best friends when we were both there at the same time.
Oh, I love to hear that.
Those hockey players are I didn't meet one hockey player I didn't like. Even the Goons, or anywhere from Sidney Crosby, who everybody knows, Malkin, all those guys, down to the guy that no one's ever heard of. and Fleury, and I still text, Marc Andre, and he's been in Vegas. So those hockey players are just a different breed, man. They are. I'm sure they have their moments, but man, they're just polite. They have fun. They know what having a good time is for sure.
Beer for beer. Who's taking it?
Yeah.
You or Talbot? Beer for beer.
He might have a wooden leg, man. I wouldn't mess with him. But I'll definitely drink with him, but I'm not going to compete with him because even though he's smaller than me, that doesn't mean anything.
Oh, I love it, man. Good
but
stuff.
Max is. I need to get back in touch with Max. Max is one of my great buddies. I'll never forget, man. He would be up in the box, and I'd hit a game winner or something that game, and he'd see me out, and he goes, "How in the hell do you do that under that pressure?" And I said, "Dude, I can't even ice skate. You're asking me how I kick a football." And he was like, "Yeah, but a penalty shot. Who cares? You get to go out back on the ice and you play." He said that one kick can determine whether you guys go to the playoffs or the next round. I said, "Yeah, you're right." And he was just dumbfounded by that talent. And that's pretty cool because, I can't ice skate. And I had season tickets to the Penguins games, and I'm sitting here critiquing them. And just because I'm a fan in that situation, and I'm like, I can't do this because I can't skate. I know how to hold a stick. That's about it.
Right.
And so, but Max is a great guy. I always hung out with LaRock. He was an animal, man. That dude right there. He would just go to the bar. And what's his name? Ryan Malone was one of my good friends. Colby Armstrong. Those guys would go to the bar and just drink out of a Jaeger bottle like it was water. So, no, I couldn't hang with that.
That is terrific. Well, multiple legends certainly in their sport and at the bar. I think, Jeff Reed, you still qualify for that, my man. Hey, it's been a pleasure. You want to tell everybody, I know that you've done a lot of charity work, and you did a lot of charity work when you were with the Steelers. Do you have anything going on right now or any plans to kind of get back into that before we let you go? Something you want to talk about you're doing off the field now?
Well, obviously with the pandemic this year, I missed out on a handful of autograph signings, flying to different cities, Dallas, and obviously Pittsburgh a few times. And because I go to 2 or 3 home games a year, I didn't go to one. I did do one signing that was in a hotel. I think it was before they played the Houston Texans. But I do all kind of stuff, not really to stay relevant, but to give back, because I think no matter what my stats are and all the great things you think of, or if you're a person that's negative and looks at the negative things, I think you need to know the person. So, now if I go to these autograph signings and I'm rude to people, then they can form their own opinion. But I get along. I'm part of a tailgate group there, Renegade Tailgate. But I talk to the Yinzer Mall, all those guys, man. They're all these tailgate groups. They all get along. They don't battle each other. One's not better than the other. They're just fans. And when you do stuff in the community, whether it's locally or you travel, because there's gonna be a million Steelers fans wherever you go. That's what I love to do. And autograph signings are cool, but it's more of the let's have a drink, let's have a beer, and talk about life. Because you're going to get a lot of football questions, but when you get to know somebody, that's when you can, form an opinion on them. And that's what I love to do. And it's all, I do any charity. I don't have my own charity. I do any charity event. I am part of a foundation here in Charlotte, but it's local communities. It's for homeless pets and single parents. But we can't do so much now because you can't have gatherings and all that stuff. But, I do anything and everything. I haven't really turned down too many offers unless it's a conflict of schedule. So I can't really say there's one thing I'm doing that sticks out. I do coaching. I'm in the CBD business, but it's not like I'm killing it as far as money. It's just because I like to help people. Mm-hmm. And if I can help myself, then I will use what I've helped myself with to help others.
No question about it, man. Hey, let's. What do you say we make a deal next time when things are back to normal next year? We'll see you and that Yinzer mob at the Renegade tailgate at a Steeler game. Maybe we'll bring our guy Talbot, and hopefully your back will be feeling better at that point. We'll all have a beer together, you and the Yinzer Nation. What do you say?
Well, whether my back's better or not, we'll still have a drink.
I love it. Jeff Reed, man, 2-time Super Bowl champ, as I mentioned, just all around good dude. Hey, nothing but best wishes. Be safe. Hopefully your health, obviously, will progress, as I'm sure it will, moving forward. And we'll do it again sometime. What do you say, man?
I appreciate you having me on, man. And you guys, everybody stay safe out there, whoever's listening to this. we're in some crazy times. No matter what your opinions are of it, we still need to find a way to come together because we have a great country, and right now it doesn't seem that way. So hopefully everyone stays as safe as they can, and then hopefully I can get up there as soon as possible, man, when everything opens up.
Man, you guys want to talk about one of the coolest interviews we've had? That guy has no filter. He is not afraid to tell you how he feels. Some interesting perspective, of course, about the Steelers' 4th and 1 decision and not kicking the field goal. And I love the fact that he said he can still bang a 50-yard field goal. You know what? I think I believe him too, which is hilarious. But at 40 years old, the way Jeff Reed, that man had a leg of steel. No pun intended. He could just walk onto the field, it feels like, after drinking 8 beers the night before and bang a 48-yarder. So, of course, at 40, why would he not be able to bang a 50-yarder right now? So, I don't know. Maybe next time Chris Boswell goes down with a hip injury, if Jeff Reed gets right and his back gets right. Kevin Colbert, you never know. No, I know it's all a bit tongue-in-cheek. But nonetheless, thanks so much to our guy, Jeff. Always a fun chat. And that's what we're continuing to provide you here on the Yinzer Crazy Show. We just talked to Max Talbot, who obviously heard Jeff discuss at length. That's his old drinking buddy on the south side or wherever it was. We're going to have a Yinzer Crazy tailgate one of these days with all these guests, hopefully bring them out together for a fan engagement event. And of course invite you guys too, because you guys are what makes us what we are. We're so happy to be joining this mainstream podcast, website, sports blog, space in the Pittsburgh area. It's really so exciting for us that Jordan and myself, Mike, just started this kind of on a whim, and it's taken off, and it's really becoming such a passion for us that we have such big plans in the future for Yinzer Crazy and YinzerCrazy.com. We are bringing on some new contributors to the site this month, so look forward to that. We'll have a big announcement there. You can always follow us, of course, on Twitter at Yinzer Crazy Show. Make sure you check out all of our pictures and stories on Instagram at Yinzer_crazy. And then our Facebook groups with 10,000 unique Yinzers. Just search in your search bar at Yinzer Crazy or Yinzer Crazy Show. And you can join the tens of thousands crazy Yinzers that are along for this ride. Jordan and I also have a big commercial that's debuting the night the Steelers play the Bengals. I think it's Monday Night Football, December 21st. You'll see our ugly mugs along with some mugs that'll make you happier. Ike Taylor, Jason Kendall, and former Pitt basketball player, current Duquesne coach Ashton Gibbs talking about why they love and support Yinzer Crazy. Our mission is to bring Pittsburghers together all across the world through their love of Pittsburgh sports. Who better to do that than a guy like Jeff Reed and, of course, the last guest we had this previous week, Max Talbot. If you've missed any of our podcasts, you can always catch up any podcast streaming platform. Spotify, Pandora. We're on Google Podcast. We're on Deezer. We're on Stitcher. We're on Amazon. I'm not sure if I mentioned that yet. My brain is still a little bit disheveled from just talking to Jeff Reed for 23 minutes about pounding beers while he has a back injury. But what a good guy. What a good time, man, this all has been for us. Like I said, we're happy to keep bringing you the best content we can possibly give. Bookmark YinzerCrazy.com on your homepage, on your desktop, whatever it may be, Android, iPad. And let's get a win tonight. What do you say? Big Steelers-Bills game. I'm not confident coming into this one. I'm truly not. Check out my piece on Josh Allen that I wrote a couple of days ago. I think the Steelers are reeling a little bit, obviously due to drop passes, defense suffering because of injuries. This team is going to be without 4 starters from opening day at the minimum. When you talk likely Joe Hayden with the concussion being out, obviously Bud Dupree and Devin Bush aren't going to play. And then Robert Spillane, who was the fill-in before Devin Bush, played so admirably. He, of course, wasn't a starter the first week, but you get my point. They're decimated on defense, and the Bills' offense is a serious, serious threat. I think the Steelers are going to lose tonight. I hate to say it, especially on this podcast, and I would love to be wrong. That's for sure. I'm going to go Bills 28, Steelers 24. I think they hang in there a little bit, but ultimately they drop the game and fall to 11-2, which is okay, guys, because there's still plenty of time to regroup, and the Bills are a really good football team on their home turf, looking to prove something against a Steelers team that right now is just out of sorts a bit, and that's how I feel as an honest, objective fan. All right, hopefully I'm writing tomorrow about the fact that I was wrong and the Steelers came out and kicked the Bills' ass, just like Jeff Reed kicked ass on the Yinzer Crazy podcast. As always, for JY, I am Mike. All of my love. Yin, stay crazy out there, okay? And almost Merry Christmas to you.
My city is still, if you dig my lingo, you'll know that I feel like ain't no city so gritty, so filled with appeal. I'm off to Permanis, piled high my next meal. Never mind New Hampshire, got my own Washington Mount. Got 3 Jordan rivers, but who's keeping count? Got the world's first Ferris, got the world's famous salt. Take me out to the ball game, no hesitation, no ball. Got Denny and Keaton, Warholm and Rogers, Fred Film Night of the Living, and Dawn of the Dead. Made the first Arnold Palmer, down is so sweet. Only 6-time winner, Super Bowl repeat. Yeah, the city is schools, a city with class. Long before I found trees, we were making our glass. Don't mess with us, the curtain. Put your flat on your back. You can visit other cities, but none will surpass. Yeah, none will surpass. It ain't JY's flow without tight rhymes. It ain't a Pittsburgher without the fries from the nation's heartland, like mom's apple pies. It's pure Americana.